Sure. With China confirming that a man in southern Guangdong province has SARS, an emergency response has been called for in Japan. What kind of steps are being taken at Narita International Airport?
Well, at quarantine station of Narita Airport, we are providing several information such as a summary of SARS cases in Guangdong province in China, as well as infectious preventive measures during travel, and caution for the person who have a fever when coming back to Japan. For all passengers who are going to visit and coming back from that area through poster and leaflet and announcement. Especially, we are requesting all passengers to declare to quarantine officer if he or she has any symptom such as fever when coming back from Guangdong province. Also, by using thermograph, we are checking the person who have a fever among coming back passengers. And if we find such person, the medical officer of quarantine station will make examination and quick diagnosis test will be made when suspected the SARS case.
Now you mentioned a high fever as a symptom. What other symptoms should a person be checked for, and where should they go, as is requested by the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare? And could you explain this in the case of if the person is Japanese or non-Japanese?
Yes. Basically, there is no difference, either Japanese or foreigners, in quarantine measures and also as approach to have medical services. We suspect the SARS case when he or she has a following history or sign and symptom. Number one is returning from infectious area within 10 days or have a close contact with body fluid of SARS patient within 10 days. And second, fever over 38 degrees in Celsius. And three, respiratory symptoms such as cough or short of breathing. Therefore, if you have such history or symptom after visiting the infectious areas, at first you are advised to make a telephone to the nearest public health center and have advice. Doctor or nurse of the public health center will ask you several questions, and then they will inform you the nearest hospital designated by prefecture government to accept and treat SARS patient. This process is very important to prevent infection and transmission to the surrounding person.
Now, I remember last year when the outbreak did occur, many people were scared and everyone was wearing face masks to Narita Airport and when they were traveling overseas. And the concern is because it's still uncertain where the SARS virus originated from. In this recent case in China, the civet cat is highly suspected of being the transmitter. In Japan, the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare and the Ministry of Economy have banned the importing of civet cats. However, this species is widespread in Japan. Is there danger of catching SARS from civet cats bred in Japan? And what is necessary to prevent the spread of SARS from pets to human beings?
Yes, we know that the SARS coronavirus was isolated from civet cat in China. However, as far as we know, there is no clear evidence to indicate they are the original sources of SARS coronavirus. We have already banned the import of civet cat as a precautionary measure since last July, but as you said, we have a lot of civet cat in domestic from old time. Then we have examined about 40 of them. There was no case of having SARS virus, which means there is a little possibility that Japanese domestic civet cat will be infectious sources of SARS. But as a general precaution, we must be careful to deal with wild animals, including civet cat, because we do not know well what kind of disease they have, and we should refrain from keeping them as pets. We also make an advice and to keep a proper dealing or contact with pets, even though they are familiar to us.
There is a huge controversy around the world about the mass culling of civet cats around the world. But again, as we said, the cause of SARS is unknown, or was unknown last year. And during the outbreak, the widespread of SARS was attributed to infection within hospitals where patients were being treated and within family members. To prevent this from happening again, what sort of prevention measures are in place now?
Yes, from the epidemic in several Asian countries last year, I think we have learned a lot. I think most important one is to gather and to provide collect and updated information to the general citizen as well as healthcare workers. We are gathering as many information as possible about SARS, including news in foreign countries and press released by international agencies, and providing them through website or public health center. Also, we have set up telephone consultation reception at central as well as prefecture level. We hope people will not be panicked, even though we have a SARS case in Japan. The next important one is to prepare for medical services in well advance. All prefecture government designated SARS treatment hospital, and we are providing financial support to prepare necessary facilities and equipment in those designated hospitals, such as negative pressure bedroom, separation wall, mask, and gown. And we are giving latest guidelines to prevent infection within a hospital. And as a basic and first responsibility to tackle with infectious disease lies in prefecture government, we ask them to have training of transportation, epidemiological surveillance, prevention of infection within hospital, and necessary prevention measures in local areas.
Well, it sounds like the prevention measures are well thought out and hopefully they'll be in place. But what is worrying about this recent case of SARS in China is that the patient is an ordinary citizen. What is something we can do to be careful of SARS?
Yes, you're quite right. And we are assuming that SARS will emerge in such country or area which have the SARS cases in previous time. So we would like to advise all travelers should know the situation of the country or area they are going to visit beforehand. And if there is epidemic in those areas, you may be better to consider to postpone your departure. And in general, it is always advisable to wash hands and gargle when coming back home to prevent many infectious diseases, including SARS. Mask is also useful to prevent other spit from entering your mouth, as well to prevent your contaminated fingers from touching your mouth.
Dr. Xiu, thank you for your comments and the helpful tips.
Thank you, sir.